This is very complex. This is a very brilliant enemy. It's a brilliant enemy. They develop drugs like the antibiotics. You see it. Antibiotics used to solve every problem. Now one of the biggest problems the world has is the germ has gotten so brilliant that the antibiotic can't keep up with it. And they're constantly trying to come up with a new. People go to a hospital and they go for a heart operation. That's no problem, but they end up dying from problems. You know the problems I'm talking about. There's a whole genius to it. We're fighting, not only is it hidden, but it's very smart, okay? It's invisible and it's hidden, but it's very smart.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, and we're going to look at how the fake news lied about General Flynn, who is apparently up for a total exoneration in this upcoming week. We're going to dive deep into that. Plus, we're going to look back and see exactly how the latest news stories relate to everything that's happening with the COVID-19 virus. And we're going to talk about how the fake news liars have spun it to manipulate the public. You guys are going to want to stick around and check out this and a whole lot more. Hi, my name's Craig. Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. You guys know I say thank you if you've hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't done it, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, then select all so you get notified as soon as all of these videos get posted. Today, we're picking up right where we left off. We left off at Q Post 3987, and we're picking up at Q Post 3988, and there's a lot of information here, but we're also going to talk about a bunch of news stories that the fake news media won't report on or are just purposefully misreporting. So we're going to cover that, and we're going to get into a few other things, so stick around for all of that. But first, I just want to remind you this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. You can download it right now for free, install it, run it. You guys will love it. It blocks ads. It's a better internet browser, better than Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, whatever you're using. Take a second, use the link in the description, and download it, install it, and run it today. And they'll make a contribution to this channel, so it's a win-win. You get a great product, and they'll make a contribution to keep this channel going. So go check out the Brave browser for free using the link in the description today. So today we're going to get right into the latest Q posts. Of course, starting here, we have this picture, which is of the Old North Church, and it goes right hand in hand, I guess, with what our last post was, which was talking about Paul Revere's ride and the famous poem where it said, "One if by land, two if by sea," talking of the lanterns that were to be hung in the window as a signal to which way the British were going to be coming to Concord. So this is getting into the next post, 3988, and so far we only have one. I'll refresh it just to make sure we don't have new Q posts. Nope, nothing yet. But, you never know with Q, this could be a continuous drop, and we might be in the middle of it, so I'll keep it updating. But we have a bunch of other news stories to get into, so don't worry about that. Now, the tweet that we want to cover here that Q tells us to look at is this tweet by Maria Bartiromo, where she says, "Breaking news. Sources tell her that General Flynn will be completely exonerated this week. It was a total fraud, a setup." And then she says there's going to be more tomorrow on her show. All right. Well, that is something that we've speculated for, or speculated that was the situation for quite some time now. But to have it be confirmed and coming out this week is a big deal. Plus, remember, General Flynn's finally broken his silence on Twitter and posted this, which was posted to his Twitter, the first tweet he's put out in, I don't know, like 2 years, over 2 years. And this is his declaration, right? And this is really worth reading if you want to get through it all. It's only 12 pages, and it basically it outlines exactly how General Flynn was set up and how the whole sequence of events went down, from the transition and him helping with President Trump to him being interviewed by the FBI, to him getting these lawyers at Covington who he didn't trust, who misled him, and then all the way up to where we are today, where he's withdrawing his guilty plea because he was, basically told by these lawyers who were representing him, who were misleading him to just go along with it, when in reality he never broke any laws. So one of the few parts I want to point to here is just some of the ways that General Flynn words this in his statement, or him and his lawyers, I guess, crafting this, where it says, I think it's right here. He says here on page 7, to have devoted my life to my country only to be accused of crimes, slandered in the media with false and outrageous claims, and have my family threatened was an unimaginable nightmare, one that those who have not walked in these shoes will find difficult to comprehend. I can't imagine. And then this is where it gets even worse. Here at 28, number 28 says, the week leading up to November 30th, 2017, Kellner and Anthony, now these are his lawyers from this Covington firm who misled him, advised that if I did not plead, I would be indicted on multiple counts and that my son, Michael G. Flynn, could or would face indictment. They repeated that I would be looking at the potential of 15 years in prison and said that I would be subjected to the Manafort treatment. Now imagine this. This is a patriot, a 3-star lieutenant general who's put his life on the line for this country multiple times and also has served this country for over 33 years. And you have these lawyers who have the gall and audacity to come to this man and tell him that he needs to plead guilty or he's going to get the quote-unquote Manafort treatment, and that they're going to possibly indict his son on these trumped-up charges that he knows aren't true. But they basically squeezed him both financially and with this pressure to get him to plead. I mean, this is unimaginable, but also don't forget, a lot of the things that came from this, right, I think were a part of the plan ultimately. And I know General Flynn's made one of the biggest sacrifices of a lot of people who are involved with this, but at the same time, that's what patriots do. And that's my take on, what's happening here. If you want to read this full document, I really encourage you to, and I'll just kind of leave it here at the last portion here where it says, I will not confirm a plea of guilty I should have never entered. I have served my country honorably all my life and accepted responsibility for myself and others from a young age, as my sister Claire wrote to you in her beautiful letter on behalf of my siblings. As God is my witness, the truth is I am innocent of these charges and any other alleged criminal conduct, and I request to withdraw my plea of guilty, and I will fight to restore my good name. Well, we're with you in this fight, sir, and I know there's a lot of patriots out there who have your back, and all I can say is that this is justice will be served if we can get General Flynn exonerated, but then there's so much more work we still have to do. So that is something that was interesting, Maria pointing this out and having her sources say that there's going to be a total exoneration is really important, I think, for what we've been working for quite some time here. And it's like, why are they going after General Flynn? It's all obvious reasons if you've been following this long enough. So, I tweeted out here basically this clip you guys saw in the video a while ago with General Flynn explaining why Hillary Clinton was not going to be able to be elected, basically, because she had basically given intelligence to our enemies, our adversaries. And look where we are today. I mean, that's really all you need to see to understand the negative ramifications of those actions, and now the incredible cover-up attempt by not just these corrupt politicians, but the people who they work with in the fake news and in these big tech companies. It is really something that is on a level that probably hasn't been seen in the history of mankind. I mean, I've never seen such an organized effort to not only hurt this country, to hurt our president, to try to lie to the people and to cover up these crimes, and to cover up this incredible network of trafficking criminals, right? And organized crime and global corruption. This is really beyond anything I think most of us could ever have imagined, and it just gets bigger and bigger every day. And General Flynn is one of the few people who knows where all the bodies are buried and can expose all that. So just a little side note here, that they found that this picture that Q shared with us was from this website, which was about the Old North Church, the historic church that is known from basically Paul Revere and the ride and the hanging of the lanterns. And also what I thought was interesting is that it gives you the full history of the church here. And it actually still is an active Episcopal church. So go figure. Definitely worth going to check out their website. If you want to leave a link to it, you can read about the history of it as well. So another thing that we are going to cover here today is Rudy Giuliani and Katie McFarland seem to be revealing the sinister reason why China claims the coronavirus came out of a wet market And this is quite disturbing, but it makes sense. So I'm going to read this little snippet they give us here from Gateway Pundit, and this is from Rudy Giuliani in his latest video, saying, one of the reasons, and this is a quote I think from the show, one of the reasons that they keep insisting, despite mounting evidence that it came from a lab in Wuhan, they keep insisting, no, it came from a wet market, or maybe it was America who did it. They cannot admit culpability for the following reason. If they do, then there's a clause that they put into the phase 1 of U.S.-China trade deal, where in essence, in this trade deal, it said we would lift sanctions, we would lift the tariffs on them, and then they would buy a lot of agriculture and other goods from us. Meaning that, and he's going to explain this, but there's a clause in it about natural disasters. It says, but there's a clause in there, a get out of jail free clause, which says, however, if there is a natural occurring disaster, the two parties will renegotiate. In other words, China doesn't necessarily want to keep the terms of the deal. And so it's very important for everybody, for them to say, well, it's a naturally occurring disaster coming out of a wet lab or a wet market. He probably means it wasn't China who did it. So not only do they give themselves an out for the trade deal that they were pressured into signing, but they will also give themselves an out if companies and countries and individuals all come to the international courts to try to sue China. But you're not going to hear that from the fake news because they have no incentive to tell you this kind of stuff. Why? Well, probably because they are in bed with these people, right? Most of them are owned by companies who have large business stakes in China. And if they don't have a large business stake, they're connected to these politicians who had, private servers and bathrooms with possibly special access program information that may or may not have been taken by the Chinese and used against the United States to, undermine our security and sovereignty as a nation. So this is just another example, right? You look at it, and I'll leave a link to it if you want to read more about this story, but I just thought that was incredible when I read through it and saw the clips and put it all together. And then when you go deeper into this whole thing, you see that, Giuliani's coming out and exposing the fact that Dr. Fauci, and this is not just Giuliani, a lot of people are talking about this, but I guess Fauci was involved with helping direct money to this lab where they say it may have escaped from, right? Or accidentally escaped. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, right. But, where it supposedly may have accidentally escaped from. And we're giving them millions of dollars, and this is Fauci advising the Obama administration, so you're thinking, there's something really wrong here. And like I've said before, if I was President Trump, and I found out the things that we're finding out as a country right now about these individuals, Fauci, Birx, the rest, and we're in the middle of this pandemic, I would put them on front and center on stage too. I mean, you don't think that they're on a short leash, do you? Yeah, maybe they are. I mean, in those, who knows what goes on in the rest of the White House when they're not in the briefing rooms or on the Rose Garden giving press conferences. I mean, the ultimate thing here is where we have to understand that no matter what happens, this is the new reality. Wherever this thing came from, however it got here, this is the new reality. What we have to do is adapt. We have to open our economy back up. We can't let this destroy and tank our whole country. And we have to keep fighting the same fight that we were fighting before all of this, right? To expose this corruption, to not have a two-tiered justice system, to not have these fake news liars manipulate the masses in mass every day with their talking points that are distributed by the same corporations and big tech companies who have interests globally in these communist dictatorships regimes that they don't want to lose, right? So there's a multitude of reasons why these people may or may not be involved in this mass conspiracy against the American people, and some for different reasons than others, obviously. But I will put it to you that amongst those, there is obviously a sect that is involved in the globalist cabal of, Satanism. Then there's a sect of just greedy people who don't care about the United States, who, are just brainwashed into that indoctrination system of the liberal colleges that teaches that America is a terrible country and that it should never have been exceptional, and it never was exceptional. And then you have a whole nother sect of people who just don't care. They're just useful idiots. They give them a few $1 million and they shut their mouth. Like, I'll give you one example, Biden and his son. But, that aside, this is just, among many things, this just continues to build up to where there are all these different factions that President Trump's trying to take on right now. I mean, that's why you have him declaring that he's basically a wartime president, that we're at war, that there's a hidden enemy, that we were attacked. These are all things President Trump has told us because he's telling us what is happening. But you have an entire opposition, and it's not just the opposition press. It's an opposition political machine that involves the press. It involves the corrupt politicians. It involves the big tech companies, and they're actively coordinating these attacks against President Trump and the American people for, obviously, like I said, different purposes, but they all have the same intended result, and that is to destroy this country. And as you see here, this is literally Hu Jiming, whatever you want to call him. He's the spokesperson and director general for the Bureau of Public Information and Communication for the International Department of the the Communist Party of China's Central Committee. Let's say that 5 times fast. But here he says, Mr. President is right, talking about President Trump. Disinfectant is an effective way to kill the virus and less controversial than wearing a mask. By the way, China is the world's largest exporter of disinfectant. If there's a shortage in the U.S., feel free to import some from China. So why would you make this statement? This statement is not made out of, goodwill and humanity toward all men. This statement is made to expose the vulnerability that our country faces when we have outsourced the majority of our manufacturing to these other nations who are competing with us, who now, in time of crisis, in time of national disaster, in time of global pandemic, can basically have their way with us because they know they control the world's supply of certain things that are going to be crucial to fight the, conveniently appearing Wuhan virus, Chinese Communist Party virus, whatever you want to call it. This is what President Trump's referring to when he says the coordinated attack. And then if you couple that with what Giuliani's telling us about the clause in the trade deal for this natural disaster, then it gives motive. And anybody who follows logic and knows law knows that when you see a crime, you have to be able to assign motive to figure out why this happened. And then once you have a motive, then you can start building a case, right? Well, I think we've found the motive, but you won't hear that on the fake news. And that's what drives me crazy. And I think a lot of Americans too. And then the worst part is they try to enact their Chinese style censorship on our big tech platforms such as YouTube, where they cancel, delete channels. They're pulling down information. President Trump was just up the other day giving a press conference, right, where he talks about, disinfectant, and he talks about, there might be some light treatment. Oh, and then the next thing you see the fake news saying, why did President Trump tell people to drink bleach? What? That's not even remotely close to what he said. He said, hey, there's technologies that are out there which do exist, but then the most nefarious, the most devious, the most sinister part of it all is that YouTube and these big tech companies start deleting the evidence off of the internet. So that's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. Not to mention, you have people like John Podesta and George Soros both connected to this new push, right, for the Democrat coronavirus investigation, which is going to be basically the Russia hoax 3.0 or 4.0, wherever we're at this point. Any reason to stall, delay, to blockade President Trump. Q has told us that in the past. That's what this is. This is a blockade of government. They're trying to stop everything so that they can just wait President Trump out. Because these are people who have a much longer timeline for all of this than most people would understand. It's certainly longer than the 4 years of the president's term, right? Which is, I think, why President Trump jokes all the time, which also seems to scare the out of these fake news liars and these big tech weirdos, that he's going to stay in office for 10, 20 years. Because he knows that that's the timeline that if we're on if we're in a war with a hidden enemy we were attacked, and let's say that we know we're in at least a trade war with China, then they have an advantage. If President Xi's never going anywhere, the Communist Party is going to remain the same. They can negotiate over a longer period to say, oh, well, we'll just wait till Joe Biden gets elected because Joe Biden's in our pocket. President Trump said that Joe Biden's in the pocket. His son took $1.5 billion from him. He says they're not really that big a deal. Then all of a sudden he's all hard on him when he realizes it's politically expedient to help his campaign. So ultimately, once you start putting all these dots together, you go, okay, well, that makes perfect sense why they would want to shut down, your ability to, question it. And then right as we start exposing through the declassification, the first coup, they just launch another coup. They go, all right, we're just going to launch another investigation. Oh, we got a whistleblower about Ukraine. Oh, President Trump releases the transcript. The second whistleblower disappears. The story fizzles out. The impeachment ends in, a complete joke of a non-trial with no evidence. And this, to me, is just round 3. Not to mention, don't forget what they did. They plan all of this stuff. It seems it might be possible. They might plan all this stuff. Let's just say that. Event 201, a global pandemic exercise. John Hopkins Center for Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18, 2019, in New York, New York. So my question is this. How long do we just pretend that this is all normal? How long do we let the fake news lie to us and not talk about these things and not cover this? Because it's really something that's important, not only for our discourse as a nation to be able to have the ability to talk about these things and ask questions, but also for the public at large, for our country and its direction at large. Are we going to allow this global authoritarianism to restrict our freedoms slowly but surely through alternate means, meaning going outside of the Constitution, working extrajudicially in the sense that they're going to use these big tech platforms to censor us, and they're going to use these corporations to, manipulate the messages and then to disseminate this fake news? I mean, at what point do we as Americans, I know it's got to be slow. We can't just, that's a part of what this Great Awakening is. Ultimately, this whole thing is meant to wake people up to what's happening so that we might be able to take collective action against it, in the sense of passing laws and having a single-tier justice system that's not, completely corrupt and inept. That's really what we want to get to. And hopefully we'll make it one day. But President Trump's calling out the truth here. Fox News, for instance, just doesn't get what's happening. They're being fed Democrat talking points, and they play them without hesitation or research. So what President Trump points out here is 100% true. I've been saying this about Fox. I can listen to Tucker and Hannity and a few others who I like, but for the most part, the whole network is basically just regurgitating leftist talking points. And they forgot that the fake news DNC wouldn't let Fox News participate in the poor ratings debates. Yeah, they kicked them out, but then they keep taking their information. And then President Trump goes on and says, even the radical left do nothing. Democrats laughed at the Fox suggestion. No respect for the people running Fox News. But Fox keeps on plugging to try and become politically correct. They put Paul Ryan. Now remember, is it just a coincidence that Q just told us a few days ago about Paul Ryan being on the board of Fox and how this was coming? But it's all a coincidence. Don't believe your lying eyes. This is all fake, right? We're all just a bunch of, crazy conspiracy theorists. I'm going to pull up this post where Q told us and basically predicted this post that comes from President Trump. Now, here it is. It's 3957. This is from April 14th. When does the NDA expire regarding drudge sale to foreign entity? Think 2020 presidential election +1. I guess it's expiring the day after the 2020 presidential election. Removal blackout of pro POTUS accounts. Win by any means necessary. All assets will be deployed this election. Sleepers pro will shift position nay. Paul Ryan, Fox, Q. So literally Q predicts President Trump, I guess, ultimately that's what this is a prediction of, will go after those who are anti-Trump and who are sleepers, who are going to shift their position at the last second. And what do we have here? We have President Trump calling out the rhino, Paul Ryan, on the board at Fox in a complete context of Fox News. But we're all crazy conspiracy theorists over here. We don't know how to even think for ourselves, right? It's the opposite. But they hire debate questions to crooked Hillary, fraud, Donna Brazile, and others who are even worse. Chris Wallace is nastier to Republicans than even Deface the Nation or Sleepy Eyes, which I think those are both hilarious names. The people who are watching Fox News in record numbers, thank you, President Trump, are angry. They want an alternative now, so do I. Now a lot of people are like, Well, why doesn't he go do OAN? Well, OAN's not that much better. I mean, look, I do like and appreciate the fact that OAN's got some good journalists there that do some good work, but let's be quite honest. Every one of these corporate media syndicates has its own skew. And ultimately, the biggest problem we have is that there really is no freedom of speech anymore. There's this regulated speech that's allowed on the mainstream, and then there's the sort of discourse that goes on these social media platforms, but there is no bridge between those two. And wouldn't it be nice if, I know a lot of patriots are working on this right now as we speak, but if we could bridge that gap somehow to speak to the people of this country in a plain way, a plain fashion that exposes this corporate propaganda and the danger it poses to the public at large and this country and its sovereignty and its security, especially during a pandemic right now. I mean, yeah. Ultimately, another President Trump tweet here talking about how he works. He says, I work from early in the morning until late at night. Haven't left the White House in many months except to launch hospital ship in order to take care of trade deals, military rebuilding, etc. And then I read a phony story in the failing New York Times about my work schedule and eating habits written by a third-rate reporter who knows nothing about me. I will often be in the Oval Office late into the night and read and see that I am angrily eating a hamburger and Diet Coke in my bedroom. People with me are always stunned, anything to demean. So look at how they trivialize the news. The news doesn't matter anymore. The news, especially, the supposed news, the fake news that we get from the New York Times, is ultimately a glorified dirt rag. It's another version of that, what is that, the Weekly World News or whatever those crazy tabloids are that you see in the market where it's like Bat Boy Returns and all that. That's what the New York Times is now, and they expect us to take them seriously as a news organization. And they tell you, the big tech companies say, this is what authoritative news looks like. Well, if that's authoritative news, then I want nothing to do with it. I will not report garbage like that, and I will not report lies and become what President Trump classifies as a third-rate reporter. So that, to me, is really what we're up against, not to mention President Trump made this comment saying, does anybody get the meaning of what he... So basically, he tweeted out that when all the reporters who have received their Nobel Prizes for their work on Russia, only to have been proven totally wrong, and in fact it was the other side who committed the crimes, be turning back their cherished Nobels so that they can be given to real reporters and journalists. So ultimately he goes through it and he says Nobel a bunch of times, and people don't even get what he's saying, right? It's a sarcastic, it's meant to be a joke, but also, what's he telling us? Noble, being of noble birth, right? These people are just the offshoot of this bourgeoisie, this upper class of, people who are still obsessed with like bloodlines and things like that, who control these corporations. They hand out their little prizes, right? And it's all fixed. The fix is in. They're reporting fake news stories that aren't even true. And it's like, here's a Pulitzer, here's a Nobel Prize, here's the Nobel Prize for Peace. Obama's in office for 3 seconds. So here's the Nobel Peace Prize. For what? Nothing. Here it is. So look, we're in the midst of a battle, and it's going to get even worse as President Trump's Twitter is under attack by Twitter CEO, who's unveiling the feature to editorialize President Trump's tweets right before the election. And guess who told us this was going to happen? Yeah, Q. Not that it was hard to predict, given everything that we know. But the CEO of Twitter is saying now that they're going to editorialize President Trump's tweet just to say, this tweet is not real, it's fake, ignore it, stay asleep, go watch CNN, no. That's where we're at. So you either stand up and fight against this by exposing it and calling these people out, or we will lose this great country and everything that has been fought for so long. So that's really where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. And today being Sunday, I want to give you guys a little scripture, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media. You guys know they try to block this using a content suppression algorithm, so you got to share it and get it out there. Also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I love to hear what you guys have to think about everything that we talked about here. Also, don't forget, you can support this channel. Come find me over here on Twitter. I have a couple accounts. You can find me at JustInformU. That's the Just Informed Talk page, plus the JustInformedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. You can come over here and follow me at informed_news as well. Links will be in the description. Also, I'm over here, like it says, at JustInformedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk, and the backup channel, BITCHUTE.com/JustInformedTalk. Now, a couple of the ways you can help this channel, you can come over here and support it on Patreon, the crowdfunding website. Look, they demonetized this channel fully. They've basically tried to put it out of business. You guys stepping up and making this monthly donation and supporting it has kept it going. So your support keeps this channel going, and this is a blessing, and I'm thankful. So thank you for your support. Keep it up. And also have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything that we've talked about, including these, will be in the description of this video. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we give thanks and we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Today, I want to share this scripture with you. It's out of the book of Romans, and it talks about putting on Christ. And these are just such important words, you know, as we go through the storm that is this pandemic and exposing this corruption and this evil and trying to live righteously amongst that, right, in our day-to-day lives with how we treat our family and our friends and how we just try to live a moral, upstanding life and doing the right things, you know. This is a good verse to help kind of give you another center point for your compass. And this is Romans chapter 13, verse 11 through 14. It says, "Besides this, knowing the time, it is already the hour for you to wake up from sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. The night is nearly over, and the daylight is near. So let us discard the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us walk with decency as in the daylight, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual impurity and promiscuity, not in quarreling and jealousy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no plans to satisfy the fleshly desires." And that's my message to you today. You know, live righteously, do the right thing, put on the armor of light, and walk as an example to others. That's how we're going to defeat that. That's, you know, a lot of people ask me, what can I do? That's what you can do. That's how we all can stand up. If we live righteously, if we devote ourselves to God and we try to help others and do the right thing when no one's looking, that's how we combat this. Accept Christ into your heart and know that you have eternal salvation and that the sacrifice was made on the cross for your sins, for our sins, so that we may have eternal salvation. So that's my message to you. Share that with your family, friends, and loved ones, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I want to say thanks for watching this episode. Remember to come here, hit the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit it, punch it, tap it, headbutt it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me, though. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.